The contract was signed on a Tuesday morning. 6 months of consulting work with Thompson Industries. Full access to all departments. Direct reporting to the board of directors. My hands were steady as I reviewed the terms one final time. This was real. I was going back. Not as family. Not as the rejected daughter. But as the expert they needed. The professional they'd hired to fix what Vanessa had broken. My boss at Hammond & Associates called me into her office that afternoon. She looked serious. More serious than usual. I need to be clear about expectations, she said. This contract is high profile. High stakes. A lot of people will be watching how you handle it. He nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. I'll be professional. I always am. I know you will, she replied. But I also know this is personal, even when you try to keep it separate. So I'm assigning a backup consultant. Someone who can step in if things get too complicated. I appreciated that. The acknowledgement that this situation was unusual, that I might need support. My first day back at Thompson Industries was scheduled for Monday. I spent the weekend preparing, reviewing files, building project timelines, creating presentation templates, organizing everything I'd need to hit the ground running. Kelly called Sunday night. She always seemed to know when I needed to talk. How are you feeling? She asked. I sat on my couch, laptop open, files scattered around me. Nervous, I admitted. But ready. You've worked so hard for this moment, she said quietly. You've earned this. Don't let anyone make you forget that. After we hung up, I looked around my apartment, at the life I'd built from nothing. The career I'd reconstructed through sheer determination. The person I'd become through pain and resilience. Tomorrow I'd walk back into the building where everything had fallen apart. But I wasn't the same person who'd left. I was stronger now. Smarter. More capable. And I had proof. Documented. Verified. Undeniable proof of exactly who I was and what I could do. I arrived at Thompson Industries at 8 in the morning. Early. Before most people. I wanted time to settle in. To breathe. To prepare myself mentally for what was coming. The building looked exactly the same. Glass and steel. Modern architecture. The company logo prominently displayed. But it felt different somehow. Smaller maybe. Less intimidating. I parked in the visitor lot. Grabbed my briefcase and laptop bag. Walked through the front doors with my head high. The receptionist was new. Didn't recognize me. I'm the consultant from Hammond & Associates, I said. Here for the operational restructuring project. She checked her computer. Nodded professionally. Made a call. Someone will be down shortly to show you to your office. My office. They'd given me an actual office. Not a conference room. Not a temporary workspace. A real office with a door and a window. That detail felt significant somehow. Like they were taking this seriously. Taking me seriously. The facilities manager came down to escort me. An older woman named Carol who'd worked at Thompson Industries for 20 years. She recognized me immediately. Welcome back, she said carefully. Her eyes showed curiosity but also respect. We rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. The operations level. Vanessa's floor. Carol led me down a hallway. Past cubicles and conference rooms. Past the break room where I used to eat lunch. Past offices that belonged to people I'd once worked with. She stopped at a corner office. Locked the door. This will be yours for the duration of the project, she said. IT will set up your computer access this afternoon. If you need anything. My extension is on the phone. I stepped inside. The office was modest but professional. Filing cabinet. Window overlooking the parking lot. Empty walls waiting for whatever I wanted to put on them. I set down my bags. Took a breath. This was it. I was officially back. I spent the first hour organizing my space. Setting up my laptop. Arranging files. Making the office functional. Around 9:30. There was a knock on my door. I looked up. And there she was. Vanessa. Standing in my doorway. Wearing a designer suit. Hair perfectly styled. Makeup flawless. For half a second, her mask slipped. I saw shock in her eyes. Fear maybe. The realization hitting her that this was really happening. That I was really here. Then she smiled. That practiced, professional smile I knew so well. I heard we had a new consultant starting today, she said. Her voice bright, friendly. I wanted to welcome you personally. Understood. Extended my hand. Professional. Neutral. Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with your team. We shook hands. Hers was cold. Grip too tight. She held on a second too long. I'm sure we'll work together wonderfully, she said. Each word carefully chosen. I'm always happy to collaborate with outside experts. She stepped into my office. Uninvited. Looking around like she was assessing territory. This is a nice space, she observed. Close to the operations department. Convenient. That was intentional, I replied calmly. Since operations is the primary focus of my work here. Something flickered across her face. But she maintained her smile. Of course. I prepared a full briefing for you. Reports. Data. Everything you'll need to understand how we operate. That would be helpful, I said. I'll also be conducting my own independent research. Speaking with staff. Reviewing client files. Building my own analysis. Her smile tightened slightly. Is that really necessary? I can provide you with comprehensive summaries. I prefer to work from primary sources, I said. My tone was polite but firm. It ensures accuracy. She nodded. But I could see tension in her shoulders. Could see her calculating. Trying to figure out how to control the narrative. How to manage what I might discover. Well, she said after a moment. I'll have my assistant send over those materials. Welcome to the team. Left, closing the door behind her. I sat back down at my desk. Exhaled slowly. First encounter. Complete. She was scared. Could see it. Feel it. And she should be. The morning passed in meetings. Introduction sessions with different departments. HR walked me through access protocols. T set up my computer and email. Finance provided me with budget reports and financial statements. Took notes. Questions. Maintained a professional demeanor throughout. Everyone was polite. Professional. But I could sense underlying tension. People knew who I was. Knew my connection to the family. Knew this situation was unusual. Around noon. Got an email. From my father. Subject line. Lunch. I stared at it for a long moment. Considering. Then I replied. I'm here in a professional capacity. I think it's best if we maintain appropriate boundaries during work hours. His response came quickly. Understood. But we should talk. Soon. I didn't reply to that. Just closed the email and focused on my work. 'Cause he was right. We would need to talk eventually. But not today. Not when I was still finding my footing. Still establishing myself in this role. That afternoon, I started my real work. I pulled financial reports from the past 2 years. Revenue data. Expense tracking. Client contract information. Profit margins by quarter. The numbers told a clear story. Declining performance across almost every metric. I cross-referenced with industry standards. With competitor performance. With Thomson Industries' own historical data from before Vanessa took over. The comparison was stark. What had been a thriving, profitable operation had become barely sustainable. I made detailed notes. Built spreadsheets. Created graphs that visualized the decline. All objective. All factual. Nothing that could be dismissed as personal bias. Around 4 in the afternoon, I decided to walk the floor. To see the operations department in action. To observe how people actually worked. Not what reports claimed, but what actually happened. The energy was wrong. That's what I noticed first. People moved slowly. Spoke quietly. Looked tired. There wasn't the buzz of a productive workplace. Just a heavy, exhausted atmosphere. I stopped at a cubicle where a project coordinator was working. A woman named Stephanie who I'd known slightly before I left. "Mind if I ask you a few questions?" said. She looked up, surprise crossing her face when she recognized me. "Of course. Sure." We talked for 20 minutes. About her current projects, the challenges she faced, the resources she needed but didn't have. She was careful at first, diplomatic, but gradually, she opened up. "It's been difficult," she admitted quietly. "A lot of changes in the last 2 years. Not all of them good. We're trying our best but..." She trailed off, glancing toward Vanessa's office. Understood. She was scared to say too much. Scared of retaliation. "Your perspective is valuable," I told her. "And confidential. Anything you share with me goes into my analysis. But I won't attribute it to you specifically." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you. That helps." I moved through the department, having similar conversations with coordinators, analysts, managers, junior staff. Everyone had stories, everyone had concerns, and everyone was scared to speak openly. By the end of my first day, I had pages of notes, a clearer picture of what was really happening. The problems weren't just in the numbers. They were in the culture, the management, the leadership. Vanessa had created an environment of fear, where people were afraid to admit problems, afraid to ask for help, afraid to challenge decisions. So mistakes got covered up, problems got buried, and everything kept getting worse. I packed up my things around 6, exhausted but satisfied. I'd accomplished a lot, gathered crucial information, established myself as someone people could talk to. As I was leaving, I passed Vanessa's office. The door was closed but the light was on. Through the glass wall, I could see her at her desk, on the phone. Her expression was tight, stressed. She looked up. Our eyes met for a second. Then she looked away quickly, turning her chair so her back was to the door. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button, waited. She was definitely scared. The first week passed in intensive research. I interviewed 32 employees, reviewed hundreds of documents, analyzed financial statements, client feedback, vendor relationships. Every day revealed new problems. Missing payments to vendors. Contracts written with unclear terms. Projects over budget with no explanation why. Client complaints that were never properly addressed. And everywhere, the same pattern. Problems that originated with poor decisions from operations management. From Vanessa's department. From her leadership. I documented everything. Built a comprehensive picture. Created a detailed timeline showing exactly when each issue started. How it developed. What the impact was. By Friday afternoon, I had enough evidence to fill a complete report. But I wasn't done yet. Wasn't ready to present findings. I wanted to be thorough. Wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anything. Because once I presented this, there would be no taking it back. No room for anyone to claim I'd been biased or incomplete. Had to be perfect. Monday of my second week, I requested meetings with key clients. The board approved it immediately. Gave me direct access to client contacts. Permission to ask questions. To gather feedback. I scheduled calls with 5 major clients, including the ones who'd left Thompson Industries over the past year. The conversations were enlightening and damning. Communication broke down completely, one former client told me. We'd send questions, get no response for weeks, then suddenly get conflicting information from different people. Another described project delays. We were promised delivery dates that were never met, then told the delays were our fault. It was unprofessional. A current client who was considering leaving said, "We've stayed because of our long relationship with the company. But our patience is running out. The service quality has dropped significantly." I asked specific questions about processes, communication, problem solving, leadership. Every answer pointed to the same root cause: operational dysfunction, poor management, Vanessa's failures. I thanked them for their honesty, assured them their feedback would help improve things. Some sounded skeptical, others hopeful. All of them appreciated being asked. Wednesday afternoon. I was working in my office when someone knocked. I looked up. It was one of the senior managers. Someone I'd worked with years ago. A man named Trevor who'd been with the company for 15 years. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. His voice was quiet. "Luscious. Of course. Come in." He entered, closed the door behind him, sat down across from my desk. "I heard you're gathering information," he said, "about how things are really working around here." He nodded, waiting for him to continue. He took a breath. "I'm leaving. I've already accepted another position. My last day is in 3 weeks." I wasn't surprised. He was talented, experienced, exactly the kind of person who would have options. "Can I ask why?" He laughed, short and bitter. "Because I can't fix this anymore. I've been covering for problems for 2 years, making excuses to clients, redoing work that should have been done right the first time. And I'm exhausted." "What specifically has been the biggest challenge?" I asked gently. He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Leadership," he finally said. "Or the lack of it. Decisions get made without consulting the people who actually do the work. When we try to raise concerns, we're told we're being negative, not team players." "Give me an example," I said. He pulled out his phone, showed me an email chain. A project where he'd warned about unrealistic timelines had been overruled, had been told to make it work anyway. The project had failed. The client complained, and Trevor had been blamed for not managing it properly. "This happens constantly," he said. "Good people are leaving. The ones who stay are either too junior to have options, or they're just riding it out until retirement." Took notes, just more questions. He answered everything, gave me specific examples. Documentation. When he left, he looked lighter somehow, like unburdening himself had lifted weight off his shoulders. "Thank you for listening," he said at the door. "I hope you can actually fix this. This company deserves better." Thursday morning, I got a surprise visit. My mother. She appeared at my office door, looking uncertain, nervous. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. She entered, closed the door, sat down without being invited. We looked at each other for a long moment. "I heard you were back," she said finally. "Working here. As a consultant," I clarified. "Not as family." She flinched slightly at that. "Your father and we've missed you." I didn't respond, just waited. "We made mistakes," she continued. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "With how we handled things. With the wedding. With believing Vanessa without hearing your side properly." "You didn't hear my side at all," I said quietly. "You made your choice immediately, without question." Tears filled her eyes. "We were trying to protect the family, to avoid scandal, to protect Vanessa," I finished. "Like you always did. Like you always have." She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "What do you want?" I asked, not unkindly, just direct. "I want to fix this. I want my daughter back." Took a breath, considered my words carefully. "I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago," I said. "That daughter, the one who needed your approval, who would sacrifice herself to keep peace. She's gone." "I can see that," my mother whispered. "You're stronger now, more confident." "I had to be," I replied. "You left me no choice." She nodded, wiped her eyes. Can we try to rebuild?" "Maybe," I said honestly. "Eventually. But not now. Not while I'm here doing this work. It wouldn't be appropriate." She accepted that, started to stand, then paused. "Your findings, your report, it's going to be hard on Vanessa, isn't it?" I met her eyes. "It's going to be honest. That's all. Just honest." She nodded slowly, understanding what that meant. She's my daughter too, she said quietly. I know her faults, but she's still my daughter. I understand, I said. And I did. That's why this was so complicated, so painful. But I have a job to do, and I'm going to do it properly, no matter who it affects. My mother left shortly after. I sat at my desk for a long time, processing that conversation, feeling complicated emotions I couldn't quite name. By the end of week 2, my report was nearly complete. 27 pages. Detailed, comprehensive, devastating. I'd found issues in every area of operations: financial mismanagement, poor client relations, employee dissatisfaction, process failures, contract problems, vendor disputes, and every single issue traced back to decisions made since Vanessa took over, to her leadership style, her refusal to listen to advice, her tendency to blame others, her lack of actual operational expertise. I documented everything, with evidence, with data, with specific examples. Nothing could be dismissed as opinion or bias. This was pure fact. I scheduled a presentation with the board for the following Monday, gave them advance notice, told them to expect comprehensive findings, told them it would take at least 2 hours to present everything properly. They agreed immediately, cleared their schedules, made it a priority meeting. I spent the weekend finalizing my presentation, practicing, making sure I could deliver it professionally, without emotion, just facts, just truth, just reality. Monday morning arrived. I dressed carefully, professional suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. I wanted to look competent, authoritative, undeniable. I arrived early to set up the conference room, connected my laptop to the projector, arranged handouts, tested the presentation slides. The board members began arriving at 9. My father, 6 other directors, the company attorney, the CFO, everyone who mattered, everyone who had power to make decisions. Vanessa arrived last. She looked composed, confident, but I noticed her hands. They were clenched tight, knuckles white. She was terrified. The board chairman called the meeting to order. We're here to receive the preliminary findings from our operational consultant. The floor is yours. I stood, moved to the front of the room, pulled up my first slide. Thank you for your time today, I began. My voice was steady, strong. Over the past 2 weeks, I've conducted a comprehensive analysis of Thompson Industries' operations. What I've found is concerning, but it's also fixable, if we're willing to face reality and make necessary changes. I walked them through everything: the financial decline, client losses, the employee turnover, the vendor problems, the process failures, each section backed by data, by evidence, by documentation they couldn't dispute. I showed them client feedback, direct quotes explaining why they'd left, why they were unhappy, what specifically had failed. I showed them employee surveys, anonymous responses revealing low morale, poor management, fear-based culture. I showed them financial comparisons, how Thompson Industries used to perform, how competitors were performing, how far they'd fallen. And then I showed them the timeline, a detailed chart showing exactly when each problem started, how it developed, how it worsened, every single issue beginning after Vanessa became vice president of operations. The room was silent, heavy, uncomfortable. Some board members took notes, others just stared at the screen, looking increasingly concerned. My father's face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. Vanessa sat frozen, her carefully composed expression cracking around the edges. I didn't mention Vanessa's name. Didn't have to. Every issue traced back to operational management, to decisions made by her department, by her leadership. When I reached my recommendation slide, pause, let the previous information sink in, then continued. My recommendations are as follows. First, immediate leadership review in the operations department. Second, implementation of new processes and accountability measures. Third, client outreach and relationship repair. Fourth, employee engagement initiative. Fifth, financial restructuring to address current shortfalls. I walked through each recommendation in detail, explaining what needed to happen, why it was necessary, what the expected outcomes would be. These changes will be difficult, I concluded. They'll require honest assessment, willingness to make hard decisions, and commitment to putting the company's health above individual egos. But they're essential. Without them, Thompson Industries will continue declining, and eventually, it won't recover. Closed my laptop. I'm happy to answer any questions. The room erupted, not with shouting, but with urgent, overlapping questions. About specific findings, about recommendations, about implementation timelines. I answered everything, only, professionally, with evidence to support every statement. Finally, Vanessa spoke. Her voice shook slightly, but she tried to sound strong, confident. This analysis is flawed, she said. It's based on selective information, on conversations with disgruntled employees, on cherry-picked data designed to make me look bad. I met her eyes, held her gaze. Everything in this report comes from verifiable sources, I said quietly. Financial statements, client feedback, employee surveys, public records. If you believe any specific finding is inaccurate, please point out which one, and I'll show you the documentation. Silence. She couldn't, because it was all true. One of the board members cleared his throat. I think we need to discuss this internally. Thank you for your comprehensive work. He nodded, started packing up my materials. Vanessa stood suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is personal, she said, her voice rising. She's doing this to humiliate me, to get revenge for. She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. Realizing she was about to reference the wedding, about to admit to family drama in front of the board. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than anger, felt pity. I'm doing what I was hired to do, I said quietly. Analyzing your company's challenges, recommending solutions. If those findings make you uncomfortable, that's not about me. That's about the actual situation. The board chairman spoke. I think we should take a break. Vanessa, why don't you step out for a few minutes? Give us time to discuss among ourselves. She looked like she might argue, might refuse, but something in his tone made her comply. She grabbed her things, walked to the door, looked back at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Hatred, fear, regret. All of it mixed together. Then she left. The door closed behind her. The board members looked at each other. My father, me. These findings, one of them said slowly. They're quite serious. They are, I agreed. But they're also accurate. And they're fixable. If you're willing to make difficult decisions. My father finally spoke. His voice was quiet, trained. What do you recommend? Specifically, about leadership. I'd been waiting for this question, had prepared for it. That's not my decision to make, I said carefully. I'm a consultant, not an executive. But I can tell you what I've seen work in similar situations. I outlined options, leadership coaching, restructuring reporting lines, bringing in additional support, creating better oversight. Yes, in some cases, leadership changes. The goal isn't to punish anyone, I said. It's to create an environment where the company can succeed, where employees can do their best work, where clients get excellent service. Whatever changes you make should serve that goal. The board nodded. Just more questions, discussed among themselves. After an hour, they dismissed me, thanked me for my work, told me they'd be in touch. I walked back to my office, emotionally exhausted, physically drained. Done it. Presented everything. Laid out the truth. Showed them reality they couldn't ignore. Now it was up to them. What they did with that information. What choices they made. That was beyond my control. I was packing up to leave for the day when someone knocked. Vanessa. She stepped into my office. Closed the door behind her. We stood there. Looking at each other. Sisters. Enemies. Strangers. You got what you wanted, she said finally. Her voice was hollow. Me. This isn't about what I want, I replied. It's about truth. You're trying to humiliate me, she said. Her voice trembling. You're trying to destroy everything I built. I'm trying to save this company, I corrected quietly. The company you've been running into the ground. The company our father built. That you took over and nearly destroyed. Tears filled her eyes. Real tears this time. Not the practiced ones from my wedding. I did my best. Your best wasn't good enough, I said. Not cruelly. Just honestly. You took a position you weren't qualified for. And people suffered because of it. The company suffered. Employees. Clients. Everyone. She looked away. Unable to meet my eyes. Why did you do it? Asked. The question I've been holding for 3 years. Why did you destroy my wedding? Ruin my reputation? Take everything from me? She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I was jealous. 'Cause you had everything. The degree. The fiancé. The future position here. And I had nothing. I was nothing. So you destroyed me to feel better about yourself, I said. Understanding dawning. And took the job you knew I wanted. She nodded. Tears streaming down her face now. I thought if I could just get the position, I could prove I was as good as you. Better even. But I wasn't. Not. And now everyone knows. I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly. But understanding. She hadn't acted out of pure malice. She'd acted out of insecurity. Out of a lifetime of feeling less than. That didn't excuse what she'd done. Didn't erase the pain she'd caused. But it explained it. What happens now? She asked. Her voice small. Broken. That's not up to me, I said. The board will decide. Based on what's best for the company. She nodded. Started to leave. Then turned back. For what it's worth. Sorry. For everything. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry. She left before I could respond. I stood alone in my office, processing everything. The confrontation I'd imagined for 3 years had finally happened, but it didn't feel like victory. Just felt complicated, human. I grabbed my things, turned off the lights, walked out of Thompson Industries as the sun was setting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions, new chapters. But tonight, I just wanted to go home, to rest, to let everything settle. The battle wasn't over. Not yet. But something significant had shifted. Truth had been spoken. Reality had been faced. And whatever came next, I was ready for it. Have you ever confronted someone who betrayed you? Sometimes the truth is more powerful than any revenge could be. Sometimes facing reality is the hardest and bravest thing you can do. What would you do in my position now? Would you feel satisfaction or sadness? Share your thoughts below.